Go and watch any single Call of Duty video on YouTube in which the commentator is upset or disappointed with the current state of the game, and you will probably hear them say something like, Call of Duty is dying, Call of Duty is on the decline, COD is over. Why do we keep playing COD year after year? Fortnite won. Fortnite is the king. Fortnite's the best. Or maybe Activision has to start listening to the community, and they don't listen to the community, and that's why COD is dying. Or they didn't announce Modern Warfare 2 Remastered when I thought they were going to announce it, so automatically the game is dead, it's over, and no one's ever going to play it again. Well, it's easy to get pissed off and spew stuff like this irrationally and not really think about what you're saying. Hell, I've probably said something similar to this in one of my videos, and if you have a channel out there, I'd be willing to bet that you said it at some point too. But let's put the emotion and opinions aside for a second and apply some actual real business theory and principles to Call of Duty and see what's really going on. Contrary to popular belief, the internet isn't all toxicity and negativity out there on Reddit and YouTube and other places where people come together and talk. And believe it or not, you could actually learn some educational things if you put the time into it. And so in today's video, I thought I'd talk about the life cycle of a product and how it applies to COD. And why am I choosing to talk about this today? Well, first of all, I paid thousands and thousands of dollars to learn this kind of thing in college and never thought about it again until I'm making a video for you guys, which, by the way, is just absolute bullshit in the most broken college system we have here in the United States. But that's a topic for a whole nother video. But also, and more importantly, I think it's going to help us be able to understand why Activision does some of the things that they do and help us understand what their decision-making process consists of and which data they're looking at and why they do what they do. So without further ado, let's get into it. So typically what happens with most products is that a brand new innovative thing is discovered or made, it's introduced to the world, then sales begin to get made, more and more people find out about it either through word of mouth or internet marketing or TV marketing or any other avenue that they could get the product out. If the product is a really good product, it might experience a period of high or extreme growth, especially if it's an innovative or one-of-a-kind product, and then that product will control a majority of the market for some amount of time. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 15 years, maybe it's 20 years. It really depends on what the product is and how hard it is for competitors to make something that could compete with it. And typically this product will sit on top or at least in a good standing position in the marketplace until new technology comes along and renders it null and void, or until another competitor takes the idea and improves upon it so much that there's no longer a need for the original idea. At this point, the product begins to lose its market share or declines in popularity and, in many cases, discontinued altogether. This series of events is what makes up what's called the product life cycle. It's a real thing that's taught in textbooks, and it's divided into 4 phases that look like this: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Conversely, during these stages, there's 4 categories that the products are referred to as: a question mark, a star, a cash cow, or a dog. This second categorization for these stages can also be found in what is called a BCG matrix. BGC stands for Boston Consulting Group, which was one of the first firms to use this categorization. It came along sometime in the 1970s and is still heavily used by businesses today to evaluate where their products stand in the market. The BGC matrix is a little bit less important to this video, but I still wanted to show it as it relates to the product life cycles. So just an FYI, but back to how this relates to Call of Duty. So within this product life cycle, where can we drop in COD to have it appropriately fit into where it stands in the market today? Well, there might be 2 answers to that depending on how you want to look at it. The first way to look at it is from unit sales only by the latest game. This is probably the worst of the 2 ways to look at it because it doesn't take into account all the new technology that they have to bring in new revenue streams, but I still think that there's some important stuff that you can learn from it. And so to do that, I would bring back this chart that I know I've shown in a couple of my other videos before. So as you could very easily see by looking at the top selling games, most of them are from some time ago, at least a few years ago. And so it's very easy to just quickly look at that and say to yourself, well, Call of Duty World War II came out in 2017 and it's at the bottom of the list, so therefore Call of Duty is in the decline stage. Well, that's one way of doing a quick analysis of it, but it really doesn't tell the whole story, because in order to do that you would need to do several things. The first thing would be to account for all Call of Duty sales throughout the entire franchise as of late. You know, it might be hard for us to imagine that people out there are just checking out maybe like Call of Duty Black Ops 1 for the first time ever, but it's true, it's happening, and new sales are still being made on those older games every single day. So do you see the problem? If you're comparing the sales of Call of Duty Black Ops and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which have been out for 7-8 years, to the sales of Call of Duty World War II, which has been out for 5 months, It's really not fair. It's not a comparable statistic because the sales figures of those games have been cooking in the oven for years and years and years, and it's just not fair to hold a brand new game to the same standards of those ones, especially because we all know that those games were better, but that's besides the point. But anyway, yeah, if you wanted to do a fair analysis of Call of Duty as a franchise, then you would have to account for every single title that is still selling today, even the older ones, because you can't just go running around saying that World War II is dead because its sales didn't meet the figures of the other games. Well, you can, you'll just sound like an idiot. But one of the other things that you would have to do to have a completely fair analysis is analyze the revenue that is brought in by these games post-launch. This would include all microtransaction money to get COD points and supply drops, as well as all of the DLC packs and season pass sales that go on. And while I know that those figures are available somewhere on Activision's website with their investor relations branch, I'm not going to bother to go and get them because it would be way too tedious, but we know that that amount of revenue is a lot. In fact, it's higher than it's ever been at $3.6 billion, which was stated in an article that came out kind of recently. I think a lot of people will remember seeing it. I'll put it on the screen just in case. But case in point, the money being generated by Call of Duty is at an all-time high, despite the actual unit sales being a little bit lower now. And that's because they've changed their business model. An easy way to think of it is like this. Picture two scenarios, scenario A and scenario B. In scenario A, you're gonna have 10 friends give you $10 each. In scenario B, you're gonna have 2 friends give you $100 each. So which is better? With scenario A, you'll walk away with $100, and with scenario B, you'll walk away with $200. Of course, you'll pick scenario B, and Activision has discovered a way that they can enact the equivalent of scenario B across the board with their Call of Duty audience. And so they have chosen to do that, because that's business. So going back to the original question, which stage of the product lifecycle is Call of Duty in? Well, I would probably put it in the growth stage still. Now, to try and remain as neutral as possible and stay unbiased, in reality it might be closer to maturity, but we don't exactly know because we're reading about Activision's total income across all of their titles. So maybe a majority of that revenue is coming from another title. I highly doubt it because Call of Duty is still their biggest IP, and a product is not really considered to hit maturity until the sales have plateaued. And while the unit sales may have plateaued and declined a little bit, the sales of in-game items is just growing and growing every single year. So, to summarize, what did we talk about today? Well, there are 2 ways to look at this. The first way is from a title-by-title basis based on unit sales only, in looking at the trend of the sales figures over the years. While we can learn some information from that, it's not the best way to go about analyzing what stage of the product lifecycle Call of Duty is in. In order to control for all the factors going on within the franchise, we would have to include the unit sales from the current game, the unit sales from past games, and all revenue being brought in by microtransactions within the game and DLC map packs and season passes. When all this is accounted for and going off of information that is available to the public, I, as a reasonable person, would probably stick Call of Duty as a franchise somewhere between a late growth and early maturity stage. And as far as the BGC matrix goes, it would be somewhere between a star and a cash cow, meaning that it has high market share and low to high growth. Characteristics of being in this stage would include constant sales, reducing costs, and increasing profits, and we know all 3 of those things are happening. So when it comes to those people who like to say that Call of Duty is dying, well, maybe from their own standpoint and viewpoint and opinion, they might consider the game to be dying because they see how dissatisfied some of the community currently is with the game, or maybe they're just not interested in the game anymore, or their friends are not interested in the game anymore, and people have a tendency to take what they think as fact, which is completely normal. It's human nature. And that is why we have developed tools like the BCG matrix and the stages of a product lifecycle with separate categories and phases that are freely available for all of us to learn just by going on Google and doing a little searching. But in order for anybody to actually believe that you learned it, you have to go to school and pay thousands of dollars to sit in a classroom and be bored and go and look at your phone while your professor's talking about all this stuff. And it's all gonna go in one ear and out the other because you don't even really want to be there, and you're gonna use Quizlet to pass your exam anyway. But now that you've watched this video, hopefully it'll make it a little bit less painful when you have to sit there and take notes about this stuff, because learning stuff based on applications that actually interest you is much more interesting, enjoyable, and effective than just trying to memorize definitions that you're gonna forget as soon as you walk out of your test. It's just better. You'll retain the information a lot easier. That's it, guys. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something useful from it. For me, this kind of stuff just fascinates me because you could always apply it to things in the real world and things that you like Call of Duty. So if you enjoyed it or learned something, please leave a thumbs up on the video as it really helps the channel out. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I really enjoy reading through all the things that you guys leave in my videos and having conversations with you, so that's cool. And a huge shout out to all the new people here. I know we hit the 400 sub mark, so that's really awesome. We're on the road to 500 now, which is absolutely insane. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. And also a big thank you to everyone who's been on my last couple streams. We've been having a ton of fun on there. We've been doing open lobbies and having really good conversations, so please stop by next time you see us live. You won't regret it. And the best way to know when that's happening is to follow me on Twitter. The link is in the description. That's it, dudes. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.